I can't even think of anything when I hear this song anymore except for Coach Mack, because I know when the music plays, he's on the Blaine and Mickey Show, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, Middle Tennessee's most trusted local Ford dealership for 40 years. Coach Mack joins us now. Coach Mack, legal tampering period. What a time to be alive, man.
That's great. It's a great time to be alive. How we doing, guys, this afternoon? Legal tampering started in 2012. That's when the oxymoron was invented. It started in 2012, so we've had about a dozen years of it, so everybody should be familiar with it by now.
For people who might say, gosh, Coach Mack, I'm in my 20s. I don't remember. What was it like before legal tampering, Coach Mack? What would you tell those people?
Well, before there was no free agency, and that's what it was like. I mean, there was no free agency. So if you're on a team, you're on a team until you quit playing. And, I've been through all the iterations, for nearly 40 years in this business, just like over 40 years, like Two Rivers Ford, the most trusted dealership in the South. I mean, look, you got to adjust with the times. I remember when legal tampering came in, because it came all about, because you guys remember, when deals were signed about 12 seconds after the deadline on midnight. And so you knew it took longer than that to work out a very detailed $100 million contract that happened right here. So anyway, all of those things are just, as it works forward, you got to adapt to the times. But we've had a dozen years to adapt to legal tampering.
How much of this stuff, like either, I don't want to say starts, but how much behind the scenes stuff with agents and teams and personnel people is done over like shrimp cocktails in Indianapolis during the combine?
A lot of it, because that's face to face. You don't have to have any phone calls.
Yeah,
it's face to face. The other thing too, guys, is the way it's set up there now with everybody in suites around the top of Lucas Oil. You just got to walk. You just got to walk suite to suite to do it. I mean, I was with the Rams when we made the deal and flipped the thing when the Rams drafted Jared Goff, for the number one pick, from the Titans here. So their suite was right next. The Rams and the Titans suites were next to each other. So you didn't have to walk out the door to go in the other door. You could step over the rail. And so, I mean, that's where a lot of it happens, because face to face is a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. We wish Coach Mack was face to face, but he is with us on the phone today on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Coach, I'm just trying to put you in the head coach's, chair as of right now with this question. That is, what is the perception on how valuable kickers are to teams?
Well, I think everybody. I mean, it's valuable. I mean, their value has shown, and all you have to do it. I mean, you guys do it, and our listeners are sophisticated enough to know it. Most of these are one-score games in the National Football
League.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of them come right down to it. So they're extremely valuable, and that's why just like what the Titans did last year, picking up 39-year-old Nick Folk that just about made everything.
Right.
So I mean it's important. It's vitally important. The kicking game has become more important now. You talk about place kicking. I mean, I talked to Bones Fossil quite a bit, who's on that committee now of the special teams coaches, as far as changing the kickoff rules and those types of things. But field goals are a scoring play in the National Football League, and now, it's more vital than ever because teams are so even.
Right. So how valuable would Nick Folk be to a team as far as like, he was 28 for 30 pretty much, 2 extra points, 1 shank, 1 bat, hold or whatever have you. But he played fairly well, kicked, had touchbacks. So I'm interested because the Titans are a team that's in transition, and you need a proven kicker, maybe not a young kicker, but a proven kicker at this point in time just to get you through this transition where you get your roster straight. So, man, I'm interested to see where they sign the kickers. You know any free agent kickers, man, just kicking around?
I do not. I'm out of the orbit of kickers. I mean, I know people I can call real quick that live in that universe. But I'm out of the kicker universe. And all for complete transparency, when I was the head coach, I could coach every position. I went in every position room. Yeah. The only room I stayed out of, kickers.
Oh yeah.
Because all I would tell them, the yellow things, hit it between it. Thank you. When I ask you if you're ready and you can make it, then I expect you to go make it.
All right. Well, Coach, tell us a little bit about what you know about Cushionberry, the center that the Titans signed, and if you recall anything from when you scouted him, even when he came out of college.
No, absolutely. Blaine, I really liked him coming out. There was two centers that I really liked in that draft. Cesar Ruiz was one, and Cushionberry was the other one. The thing that stood out about Cushionberry is, first of all, I mean, he's a tad under. He's 6'3", but he's got really long arms. And the other thing was exceptionally smart. Really a smart guy. I thought that he would be an immediate starter coming in. Evaluated him right at the top of the pod of the centers, and I was all in on him during the draft because I went back, checked my notebook, and of course I knew where I was on him, and so again I haven't seen one snap of him this year. I haven't seen one snap of any free agent film because I'm inundated with draft stuff. But I do know that coming out, I mean, he was one of the guys that caught your eye pretty quick.
So you somewhat believe he's someone in there can stabilize. Now we've seen him in the league, in the National Football League, stabilize the offensive line, at least in the center part of this deal. I guess tell us a little bit about some tackles, maybe front side tackle too, but now with the defenses moving, the best defensive end on both sides here, have you changed any with, let's say, second, mid-round guys that you think can potentially be starters in the league? So I'm talking maybe second, third, maybe even fourth round as this draft is a little deep.
Yeah, and that's a relevant question. Rhett Bryan and I have been spending all day putting these guys in pods now. We're finally to the point after the combine where we can start podding some of this up. And I can still go through a pretty good list. And as you say, down through the third and fourth round that I think will be able to help. So absolutely, there are some guys now. The ability, as you well know, the ability decreases the further you go down in the draft. There's a reason you've got guys rated higher than others, but this is a deep draft. We just got through going through all of the offensive linemen, and of course this counts all of them that were at the combine. There were 70 offensive linemen at the combine. This is a good year for offensive linemen of guys. If you draft them in the proper place and you can develop them, can help you pretty early, I think, in their careers.
Any tips on, just to the journal fan, on no-nos to offensive linemen would make you not want to draft them?
I don't like waist benders, and I don't like guys that that can't move their feet. I just don't, waist bending and not being able to move your feet. You've got bigger guys, but if you've got bigger guys that have got cement boots on, it's hard. Whether you're on the edge or you're in that center guard triangle, it's still a movement game. It's a big man movement game. And that's why one of the exercises they perform there is, show their lower body flexibility, because that's any really good offensive lineman I'm sure that you played with, that I've been around all of my years in coaching and now doing this, they've got lower body flex and they can move their feet. Now, how well they are technically with their hands and how good they are fitting into a scheme, all of those things are scheme adaptable, and they're also very coachable. But you need some lower body flexibility just to be able to handle the speed that's coming at you now from defenses.
Well, with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack.
Coach, I know everybody wants the biggest, splashiest names on the first day, but this does seem like a great time for a Coach Mack keep your powder dry, because there's still tons of great players out there who are available.
Well, there are experienced players out there.
Yeah.
There are experienced players out there that for some reason or another, either a club is not going to pick up an option, or, a club is done with them. And here, look, the asset allocation, and I would caution all of our listeners, and I know they're sophisticated enough. You guys are, and I'm sure you educate them. These numbers that you see on these contracts, that's not the real contract. These are the inflated. These are the biggest number that could possibly be that are out there before the contracts are even signed, by the agents, because that's what they do. They want to publish. They've done really good for their players. So when you start digging into, I've done contracts. You start digging into the guts of the contracts and the votable years, and you start digging into incentives, likely to be earned, not likely to be earned. The asset allocation is different. You can't just take the gross number that you see, let's say the Titans, and just subtract it from what you thought your top number was as far as how much money you had going into free agency. That's not the way it works. And these if these are extended contracts, they are built, to be able to work out 2 and 3 and 4 years. It's not just everything at once. The only thing that's everything at once is those franchise tags. Those have to be paid at once. Those have to be paid at once if nothing else is done. Everything else, guys, wait until you can dig into it. And you've got a completely different asset allocation group that's working now here, and they had money to work with. So just be real cautious of thinking how much money some guy's going to cost you, which, really doesn't matter. It's just the price of doing business. But those contracts, until you dig into the guts of them, then you'll find out how these assets are allocated.
How many people, for instance, this legal tampering started Monday and goes through today, then goes through tomorrow, and then the new league year starts tomorrow at
right.
3 o'clock. How many people in that building down there, for instance, with the Titans, are involved in negotiating and running back and forth and taking these calls? How many people, what is that process like in a building right now during this frenzy period of 3 days?
Well, taking calls is different than negotiating.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a lot of people on the phones. I did it during this time when I wasn't involved in the negotiating. Now, negotiations, I would say probably at the max, there's 4 or 5, that are working on it. And then there's one decision maker. So all of those things, as I said, the asset allocation part of it is a huge, huge part of this. When it gets to work. But you talk about how many people are actually negotiating, I would say probably 5 at the max. But on the phones, there's probably floors of them on the phones.
Whoa. Coach Mack joining us, giving us the inside info here with the Mack attack on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Coach, tell us a little bit of your thoughts on Tony Pollard being signed with the Titans and then, matching him up, teaming up with Tajay Spears, and what you thought about him actually when he came out as well, because he's a Tennessee guy.
Yeah, well, I thought at Memphis they used him a lot there at the University of Memphis. They even split him out some, and they had two backs and guys that were pretty good when he was coming out. I like his game, and what it shows you now is that they're going to go to a multiple back system with those two backs. Of course, you've got a veteran in Pollard, and then you've got a second-year player in Tajay Spears, but they've got kind of the same. They've got a little bit of the same skill set, so that offensively, whatever you're doing offensively, then it pretty much you've got the whole run of the gamut of your offense, first through third down, regardless of which one or two of those backs are in there, because they can both catch it. They both run with power. Even though they're not big, thick backs, they both run with power. They're pretty good same foot, same shoulder guys, and they've got some make 'em miss in him. So that's I paid attention to him when he was coming out, and then of course I followed him a little bit there at Dallas just because the whole Ezekiel Elliott thing. Mm-hmm. I know he's had some injuries, but he's come back and played from those injuries. Anybody that's been in the league for 5 years or 6 years or whatever, you're going to have some nicks on you. And so, but I think the biggest thing to draw from all of this is you've got two backs with some, I would say, more similar skill sets that will be able to take you through 3 downs regardless of who's on the field.
Take us through just the process, and not necessarily the Titans, but you've been a head coach and sat in those rooms where you have a strategy going into free agency, and then when it kind of curves and takes a different route, how that strategy then changes how you go about your draft, if at all.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely. You've got to be flexible, and you've got to be able to. You've got an idea going in, which you can never, you never know, especially free agency. You don't know what's going to happen because you got agents and you got money involved. It's different than in the draft because you draft them, they're slotted, and they're going to be on your team. You go free agency, there's a lot of variables that come into it. So, to your point, which is a really good point, you've got to be ready to pivot really quick during free agency. The thing that you have to be, though, going in prepared, when you make all these profile tapes and the coaches get together and discuss it with the personnel people about who you'd like, why you'd like them, how they would fit, then you have to have a tier of those guys because you're not going to be able to consummate a deal with everybody that you have put up on your board that you want to talk to. Even the guys that you prioritize, sometimes you prioritize them horizontally rather than prioritizing them vertically because you're not going to get every one of them.
Well, this is a National Football League question. Any surprises, and not necessarily players, but any trends that you see in free agency that has happened? Like for me, it's that the running back market has gone a lot faster than I expected just because there were so many really good running backs out there. So give us kind of your overview of what you've seen so far in free agency.
Well, I think you're right on with that, Blaine. I really do, because there were some backs that had been productive in the league that were released, because of money. I mean, that's why most of them were released because of money. And then, so I think that had something to do with it. Also, I think this draft, when just going through the draft, like I've been doing for the last 4 months, there's not that premier back in the draft.
Okay.
There's no Bijan Robinson in the back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no premier, at that point right now. So I think both of those things in conjunction have led to these running backs, which I agree with you 100%. Came off the board pretty early. Now I think what you're going to see, you'll probably see some more go, but now it'll be a series of probably 1-year contracts now, because I think your multi-year contracts, they usually dry up pretty quick, in the first few days of free agency with the legal tampering part of it. And so, but I think that has had quite a bit to do with it, because there was a pretty good group of backs that were released from other teams, or you knew weren't going to be back, or had their contracts expire, with the fact that in this draft there are some good functional backs, but there's not that premier dude. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Hey, just on the way out, because you mentioned the running backs in this year's draft, who is the guy that you like the most? Just curious. Maybe the guy who you think would be the most complete. Top 3.
All right, hold on a minute.
Because I know a lot of people like Wright from Tennessee. He seems like he's boosted his stock a heck of a lot.
There's a guy from Texas too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Robinson from Texas. Let me tell you something. Jalen Wright has helped himself as much as anybody in this period. I mean, he really has helped himself a lot. I mean, a lot. Because I tell you who I like is a lower round guy, is that Garendo kid from Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Yeah, and then I like Ray Davis. I like Ray Davis for a mid-round guy. Out of Kentucky.
Yeah.
From Temple through Vanderbilt. Yeah. And so to me, Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, okay, Jalen Wright, I think has moved up quite a bit. I really like what he's been able to do. And then I like Marshawn Lloyd at USC at the right place. Probably second or third day. But Jonathan Brooks and Trey Benson are at the top. But I think Jalen Wright, again, let me say this, 6 weeks out from the draft, has really helped his stock in this pre-draft period as much as any running back in this system right now.
Man. Well, Coach, we'll end with that. Great stuff. Enjoy the rest of legal tampering, and next week we'll be looking more towards the draft, and we can hear more about the Mac and Rhett draft board, and I can't wait to hear more about it.
Guys, I always love being with you guys, especially when we got ball to talk. The National Football League captures 12 months out of the year. That's just the way it is.
It's the best. We love it.
See you guys.
Yes, sir. The one and only Coach Mac. All right, we'll